Everybody knows the famous words that the Jewish people pronounced. Hashem goes to all the nations of the world, and all of the nations want to know what's in the Torah. We need to know ahead of time. The Jewish people beautifully say, however, Naseh v'nishma. We will do even before we know what it is. We give HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol a blank check. V'nishma, then we'll try to understand it. So everyone knows the beautiful pasuk, Naseh v'nishma. But we sometimes fail to notice that in Parshas Yisro, the Jewish people are not quoted as saying Naseh v'nishma. It says, Vayomru kol ha'am yachtav, everybody said together, Kol asher diber Hashem naseh. Whatever Hashem says, naseh, we will do. You're almost expecting to hear the word v'nishma. But in Parshas Yisro, it does not say naseh v'nishma. It only says naseh. Only in Parshas Mishpatim, where the Torah goes over some of the details of Matan Torah, Kol asher diber Hashem naseh v'nishma. So the Meshech Chachma is made. Why in one of those verses is it Naseh, and the other verse is Naseh v'nishma? So he says the following. All of us know that the Torah has 613 mitzvahs. 248 are mitzvahs aseh, thou shalt do. 365 are mitzvahs lo aseh, thou shalt not do. And Chazal teach us that these mitzvahs are mechuvan. They correspond to the anatomical structures of the human body. There are 248 bones, and every mitzvah saseh gives a spiritual chiyus to one of those bones. And there are 365 sinews or ligaments, and when you violate a lo saseh, there's an impairment of the spiritual vitality of that ligament. And therefore, the whole Torah is mechuvan, keneged, what you might call the spiritual essence of the body, although that is a term that itself would need a lot of definition. But so here's the question. If the pshat is every single mitzvah saseh is keneged a bone, and every single mitzvah leisasa is keneged a sinew or a ligament, there has never been a Jew in the history of the world, and there never will be, Moshe Rabbeinu, anybody, who can keep all 613 mitzvahs. That is impossible. Some mitzvahs are only kaihanim, and some are b'davka not kaihanim. Some are tluya b'oretz, some are tluya b'mikdash. Some are men and not women. Some are women and not men. What's going on here? But if I need that mitzvah to give a particular part of my organism a chiyus, then by definition, am I condemned to be handicapped? Am I condemned to be crippled, no matter how righteous I am? What type of system is it that the Eibishter gives you a Torah in which every single part of the Torah is needed for my spiritual vibrancy? And yet it's impossible for me to keep every chelek of the Torah. What's going on here? Hashem created a literally no-win system. And our Svarim HaKadoshim give us two answers to this question. One answer is the pathway of Talmud Torah, that even those mitzvahs that are not shayach for me to keep, by doing them, their light and their inspiration permeate my soul and elevate my bone or ligament by virtue of learning about them, just like Chazal say by korbanos. Kala Eisek b'Torahs Ayla, you learn about the korbanos, it's ki'ilu you brought the Ayla. In fact, when the Chafetz Chaim wrote Svarim on Kachin, so somebody criticized the Chafetz Chaim, why is he Eisek on things that are not Nogeya L'maisa? As if the Chafetz Chaim didn't care about Nogeya L'maisa when he wrote the Mishnah Berurah and other things. And the Chafetz Chaim gave two terutzim. One teretz the Chafetz Chaim said was, if you believe in Mashiach, Kachim is Nogeya L'maisa, because we believe Mashiach can come tomorrow. Elamais, you think it's not Nogeya L'maisa? Do you believe in Mashiach? That was teretz number one. But teretz number two is also very important. He said, in some ways, there's a special imperative to learn those chalakim of Torah that we're not able to keep, because that is the only way that the light of those mitzvahs permeate into our soul. The mitzvahs that I can do, I can get their or through Maisa. But the mitzvahs I can't do, I bedafka get the or through limud. So that's teretz number one. How do I keep 613? I keep 613 by learning even those inyanim I'm not able to keep. But there is answer number two. Answer number two is achdus and avas Yisrael. What's the pshat? The pshat is that I, as a yachid, can only keep part of the Torah. There's much of the Torah I'm never going to be able to keep. But when I attach myself to Klal Yisrael, which is a transcendental entity of a past, present, and future, and I become like a cell that is attached to a greater guf, well, the same way when I put on tefillin on my left arm, it's not my arm putting on tefillin, it's me putting on tefillin, because my arm is a chelik of me. So too, when I am mechaber myself to Klal Yisrael, the mitzvos of the women become the mitzvahs of the men, the mitzvahs of the men become the mitzvahs of the women, the mitzvahs of the past doros become my mitzvahs, because I am mechaber myself. When I separate myself, I only have the mitzvahs that I do. When I'm mechaber myself, then I become like the finger or a cell joined to a massive organism, in which the mitzvahs of the organism become mitzvahs of every chelik of that organism. So it turns out we started off with a question. How is it yitachin that I could keep 613 mitzvahs? And if I can't, that means I'm a cripple. Two answers. Talmud Torah, and the second answer is achdus and avas Yisrael. Says the Meshech Chachma, this is merumaz in the two psukim. In Parshas Mishpatim, the Torah does not use the word yachtav. The Torah is describing a scenario in Klal Yisrael when there'll be sinat chinam, there'll be hatred, polarization, dissension, lack of unity. And when there's lack of unity and each person is standing by himself, it's no longer shaykh to say, we can fulfill the Torah with Maisa. Because on the level of Maisa, if I'm not connected to the Klal, there are so many mitzvahs I'm not able to keep. So we go to plan B. When there's no yachtav, Kol Asher Diber Hashem Nasa, we will do it v'nishma, through the process of Talmud Torah. So Memela, the Meshech Chachma says quite beautifully that Parshas Yisrael is merames to a situation of Achdus and Avas Yisrael, where we can keep the Torah by action, and Parshas Mishpatim is merames how without the Achdus and Avas Yisrael we keep the mitzvahs by Torah. Now, B'Pashtus, this indicates these are two different roads: the road of Achdus and Maisa, and the road of lack of achdus and learning. But in reality, what's important to know is these are two roads that ultimately converge and become one. Because Chazal teach us, Talmidei Chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam.